Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and thanks for stopping by. Our dedicated team will guide you through with the latest updates and theories at Starbase, Texas. If you're new to the channel, be sure to hit the subscribe button and the bell icon for future streams.
9, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We have liftoff.
Starbase Weekly, and today we've got Alex in the commentary with me. G'day, Alex.
Morning, afternoon, new year, new photos.
Of course, yeah. Happy New Year to everybody, and we've got BJ as well. G'day, BJ.
Welcome, everyone. I hope everyone had a great set of holidays and ready to blast into a new year of Starbase and Starship.
And we've got a special commentator with Ryan Hansen, Space. G'day, Ryan.
Hello, everyone. It's good to be back. I know we've gone a little bit without a flyover, so we got a lot of cool images, a lot of updates to get you guys on some of the infrastructure developing at Starbase.
Absolutely. And with that, we might start over at Massey's. Now, Massey's, I'll go straight over to the Flame Trench. And this week we can see they've stood up the, last flyover. They only had the bottom far side, in the process of being installed. Since then they put the other bottom side on and some X braces, and now then the top side over that side, and just as the flyover was going on, they were putting this piece in on this side. And actually, as of right now, the crane has been reattached to the other side again. So I'm not sure what they're doing there, whether they're pushing or pulling a little bit to get things. Maybe they're working on this joint here that didn't quite happen properly.
Yeah, it seems probably really likely that they needed to support it so they could do whatever modifications they need, because this one, that seam definitely didn't seem to fit right from some of the ground images we've seen this week.
Yeah, from the get-go, they seem to have trouble with that joint. I suppose it's a joint, that intersection, whatever you want to call it. So still guessing a little bit as to what it is, although this week we have had the arrival of the old squeeze test hardware from, I remember, a tank. I can't remember its number, but over near the Super Crusher they had this hanging off the top of one of the test articles with landing pad, with some pieces of a landing pad sitting in here, and they were crushing the tank with it. I'm not sure, Ryan, would they have moved them up and down as well as just squeezed?
I think they had the ability to kind of move them up and down. I think they were just kind of hanging off with some rope and basically attaching them. But I think mainly what they were trying to figure out is how hard can we squeeze on the tank walls before they start to deform, with the varying pressure that would be possibly inside the tank. So I think that was mainly the test. They kind of wanted to give the chopsticks like a don't squeeze harder than this or you might, cause a problem.
Yeah, I remember they had them hanging off of chain blocks that time, and I remember they tested at two different heights. I feel like I remember it was like they tested like at a dome weld and then like in the middle of the tank, maybe to simulate the varying firmnesses of the side of the wall.
Actually, I think I might remember that now you say that. Sure. So that... Oh, excuse me, my voice. That could indicate that that's at least part of the reason this frame is being constructed. Personally, I think it's going to be more than one thing. I'm just not sure what the other thing is yet. But for now, being here sort of does strongly indicate they're going to do that to one of the ships and do a squeeze test, and maybe even a slide test over the tiles or over that little section, see what happens with those edge tiles or what have you. But it doesn't necessarily mean it is what's going to happen, but it certainly does appear that's what's going to happen. But once again, I keep iterating, this frame seems to be sort of too strong for that, but like I keep saying, I might not be seeing something. This week, this frame has had added a heap of components and plumbing and some electrical and the accumulator. And the floor panels have all been changed out. Some more electrical over the back here. So she's like plumbed for a fair bit of action up here. So it's got some sort of hydraulics, which is all that squeezing device needs. Those sort of actuators, needs hydraulics up there. And on the frame we can see, go back to this photo, we can see some of the hydraulic and or electrical lines running up the back of the frame over here.
I think those are primarily electrical, because I think last week there might have been a shot from the other angle that showed them much better.
But maybe they'd have a hydraulic pump up on that frame, so they don't need hydraulics running up the frame.
What was that, BJ?
No, I was just going to agree that we had a reverse shot of that very first frame panel came up. There was 4 lines on there, but it was hard to tell if what they might have been, whether they're just conduits or possibly some form of hydraulic or gas lines as well.
What's that gas manifold there sort of leads to it being they do use their pressure driven, they're gas driven hydraulics sometimes, but
So they're on that corner there. So that's what we're seeing over here, isn't it? This is where the plumbing is going to come into that corner here somewhere.
looking like
That's where all this originates, from that corner and then heads out.
they're using that skit Which is that another cylinder, or is that the end of a pump on the ground on that upper left corner? Yeah, that one. That everything's hooked into.
Oh, that.
Yeah. I can't tell if the
Where
thing's
is that sitting?
It's on the ground.
They could be using that to test the stuff, before lifting it up top. Maybe it's just something that'll stay on the ground.
Yeah, no, but that's why I was hoping to see if we could tell if they have any sort of pumps, hydraulic pumps on it or not.
I try this angle. Oh, it's always way up to the side, yeah. Bit hard to tell for now. Yeah, it wouldn't be. They're just control panels. It does have an accumulator, obviously.
And
I'm not sure.
That does some sort of pump on that, at least electric motor on that skid.
Is too, yeah. So yeah, so that kind of solves some of the mystery, but if that's all it is, I guess, well, that's all it is. I mean, it seems like a fair frame just to do that one squeeze test, but I guess it has to happen at some stage. They did it with the booster test article, so just before they caught the booster, so they're planning on catching a ship over the next few launches or whatever. So I guess they're doing at least that test here. Maybe that's all it is. Maybe it's going to be something more. Quite often around Starbase we see a test structure built, and it has more than one. It'll do more than one test on an article. So this could be multiple tests, or once again, it still could just be that single squeeze test.
Ryan, do you remember if when they did the booster test that was some sort of that they could have just hung from a crane, or if they would have needed a structure like this to suspend it?
When they did the kind of that, well, with the ship, when they used the bumpers kind of on that hardware, they had it hanging off beams that were over the top of it. When they did the testing at the launch site, of course, they just had the test tank on the launch mount, and they just squeezed it and bumped into it that way. I think in this case, they kind of have an interesting situation because if they were to test a booster again, you could just create a booster, put it on the new launch mount, make it sure it's tall enough for the arms to actually hit it, and you could do it that way. But when it comes to the ship, they don't without making another adapter stand, they wouldn't really have a way to put a full ship on the launch mount and then do the slap testing or whatever, because in theory they could do that with the the arms on the tower, and they honestly could maybe even do a better job if strictly if that's what they're trying to do, just because you have all the control already for the arms and the carriage moving up and down. So this structure, I guess, is maybe easier for them to put together, while they can reuse all of the hardware for interfacing with the ship. So you would have the static fire stand, the ship is on top of that. You've got your QD connected to it, so you can pressurize it with whatever you want for gases and whatnot. So they might have been kind of a coin toss to figure out is it easier to modify a stand for the launch mount, or build a frame structure at Massey's to do this. And I'm still kind of the opinion that I do like the idea of the kind of squish testing for catching. I think that would be a good use for this. It kind of explains why it kind of goes up so high, roughly just below the forward flaps on the ship. But I think there might also be another purpose. They may try and do some sort of docking testing with this as well. I still think that that's a fairly decent chance, but we'll have to wait and see if they kind of add any kind of intermediate platforms in here as well. They wouldn't need a whole lot, but just kind of a receiving end to make sure that those connections can be made.
Right. Cool.
Thank you, and yeah, thanks to Sean Geisler over at Marcus House. This is an image of that squeeze test, and we can see those frames here and the little bumpers in here. And yeah, the squeeze test actuator here. It was fairly rugged sort of setup, to be honest. The new, and then, oops, wrong button. And then nowadays they're making things more elegant. It's not quite so rugged now.
Looks pretty rugged.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, now I say that. Yeah, it is still a little bit rugged, I guess.
And I've still kind of always thought this structure was maybe more temporary than not, just because it doesn't have its own footing. They're actually just cheating by welding it to the pedestals for the static fire stand. So it doesn't actually have its own footing. It's just kind of, cantilevered off of the existing footings here, which is a little weird, but to me that kind of indicates that it may be more temporary than not.
Yeah, I agree at once. I don't think they're going to test every ship on this. I think it's only to test the version 3 coming through. Maybe 1 or 2 ships, but probably only 1 ship, yeah. I agree, it's very temporary. It's fairly cheap too, pretty quick and cheap sort of structure as well. Although that bit looks a little tiny bit expensive, but in the overall scheme of things, they're only pennies, isn't it?
Yeah, and the fact that they welded it together all on site versus, having kind of prefabricated beams and bolt holes and whatnot, it's basically just all welded, on site. And you can see there were even some errors when they were welding it together. They got some stuff out of skew a little bit, so they're having to fix that. But overall, it just kind of screams temporary to me.
You mean using a come along isn't standard?
Oh, that's rough as guts.
I think BJ could show us on Gigabay where they're doing the exact same.
Correct.
Yep. Yeah, it's quite humorous, but you do what you got to do sometimes.
Well,
It's a lot easier just to weld these gusset plates directly to the beams than, have it manufactured with all the bolt holes and whatnot already. But it does lead to a little bit of a skewment, in various places.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the test structure at Masses. Probably don't need to go much more into that. There's going to be heaps of questions probably and speculations in chat about that, but that's fine. We'll enter into that in a minute. It looks like all the smaller lines are hooked up on the SQD. Actually, the rest of the static fire stand looks fairly complete. I mean, the static fire station. Oh, I've got a toad in my throat. Over here, they've added more of that gravel, whatever you want to call it, to this area here. And I think you're right, Alex. They're going to go all the way to the top here, aren't they, and complete this slope in concrete right across here.
Yeah.
And I think I mentioned last time I did a live stream, it's to get rid of this 90-degree corner down in here more than anything, to stop it being a focal point for the acoustics. Acoustics, that's probably not the right word, is it?
Shock front.
Yeah, that'll do.
Yeah, you basically have the gap between the opening of the trench and where the bottom of the vehicle is, and the plume when the engines are firing is going to be creating sound waves essentially that are going to travel toward that bunker. And so if you have a flat wall, it's going to reflect right back at the ship, versus if you've got an angled slope, it's going to actually be reflected up into the air, which is probably a lot better than going directly back at the side of the ship.
So you're saying they learned from shooting at the flat ground on the previous stands?
They are probably figuring out ways to keep the tiles from popping off during, static fire testing, which they've gotten pretty good at. I'll give them credit for that.
Yeah. If they are doing the squeeze test here, it'll be interesting to see how the tiles fare.
I was mentioning show and tell, it's almost like they're not sacrificing Ship 39, but they're putting Ship 39 in harm's way by doing this. It sort of seems odd, but they've only got to do it to one ship, and it's only the first version 3, so I don't think that's overly a concern.
They also may not do it to 39. They may, try and wait and just give 39 a good flight with, good options or odds of re-entering successfully. They may wait to do this testing actually on like maybe 40 or 41.
Yeah, okay. Because they're not going to worry about catching 39 anyway. That's a good point. Okay, just moving on just slightly. Got it in this photo? No, sorry, that other photo had it anyway. This tank down in here, I was asked around if anybody knew what it was, and lo and behold, Alex comes up with an image. Is sort of like that.
Yeah, it's one of the vaporizers the current manufacturer they've been buying their cryogenic tanks from. Aratech, I believe.
Rather odd kind of a tank, but yeah. Like I keep saying, this the whole cryo industry is it's not the technology. It's not anything new. So there's a lot of these sort of components around for all sorts of things to do with cryogenics.
Do we think this is probably another one of those secondhand specials that they just kind of pick up at a cryogenics garage sale and then decide to, use in various places as maybe a test before, using it more broadly?
It definitely has a lot of those vibes that they found it at a liquidation auction.
I do like that explanation, right? But in seriousness, though, that you say it with a purpose. It has a purpose, though. Is that it's one thing. I mean, the whole Pad A seemed to have sort of been along those lines, really. But and even the old way to set up masses and that. But introducing new equipment, that is a good cheap way to introduce new equipment to trial it in their overall system in this ecoculture.
I think some of the lines going to the COPV testing station might terminate around that new tank-ish.
Oh yeah. Okay, so would it maybe be something to do with in between this liquid nitrogen and these gas generators?
I was sort of thinking that briefly, but it's showing up a few weeks before they started setting up their testing, and that looks very much sort of temporary, or if they're waiting for a more permanent solution, that they might just want to completely isolate it and, generate their own high pressure gases and such for their testing rather than running all new stuff and integrating it with their current vaporizing and pressure generation building and all that good stuff.
Cool. I just going to go back to this frame a little because a little thing came up in chat. Cody was reminding me about something. My original thought was it was something to do with the docking hardware, the what do you call it, the pterodactyl arms, little T-Rex arms. But something I overlooked was the position up here is way up too high because that docking hardware's down actually below the PES door, so down here somewhere. So it's not anywhere near the right spot for that. So, like I said, Ryan, I think you mentioned unless there's something down here, they're going to add later on down in a lower section. So far, it doesn't look like it's anything to do with that.
Yeah, there's pros and cons with trying to use the docking adapters here. It does seem like it could be a possibility, but right at this point, given the hardware that we see on top, that on that platform that'll go up top, and especially the little bumper test pieces showing up, I think that it's seemingly more likely that this is related to that than the docking testing.
The claw is never coming back. It's kind of a claw, but not yet. That's about the only claw you're going to get, guys. The cranes are being passive aggressive over here. They're having a little tiff. I think Alex might have said that in the show and tell. That was funny. Okay, all you methane tomato people, there's the methane farm. Hasn't changed since last flyover. Looks nice and pretty well finished.
Methane?
Well, I don't know. My guess is it's mostly finished. Maybe they've got still a couple of hippos maybe to put on later on, and maybe there's still some testing plumbing in here that needs to be swapped out when they finally run it for the first time. But they don't seem to have done any work. They haven't done any work on it for a bit.
They even have its Firex stuff already installed. Oh, there's a line that goes along into the storage tanks and along that wall. That pipe next to the wall on the right side, yeah, that underneath that one, there's a Firex line.
Down there?
I'm not sure if it's that one or it's the larger one. But
The larger one does drop into this area.
Yeah, one of them. It goes along that wall. There's a bunch of. It has a bunch of outlets where. Right there's one. Yeah, there's several of those.
So if there's fires like last time, Massies, they should be able to put them out in the actual tank farm as well, yeah?
Assuming unlike that time, it doesn't get disabled. They did have sprinklers and stuff on the old one.
Well, they sort of like the sprinklers they had on the landing pad at launch site back in the suborbital days.
No,
they were hilarious.
Not that exciting.
It was like this little tiny sprinkler to try and stop a fire on the landing pad at the launch site.
On the lines coming out of the bunker heading to the gantry, they look even more pathetic than those.
Yeah, sort of looks neat now, I guess. Sort of looked a bit funny there for a little while, but it sort of looks right now. It's all been covered up. Cool. Okay, so that's the top end, I think, of Massies. Let's quickly go over here to, I think, the Locks Farm, yep. And the Locks Farm this week we see a second pump installed. So still waiting on 2 more pumps. These tanks were here last flyover, so perhaps they've finished putting tanks underneath, the high pressure tanks underneath the cryo tanks. The box fan, the fan still, a second fan hasn't been installed into the fan box yet. It all looks fairly ready to go. The little mounts are down here and the hole's ready to go.
Turning vanes were already installed.
Yeah, it's kind of got me thinking that was sort of always designed to have 2 fans on it, to be honest.
Correct.
Like it just had a bolt-on panel over it in the interim till this one arrived. Or someone's really good at cutting circles with an oxy torch. So we should maybe see these tanks be commissioned soon, if not already.
I'm not sure that they've actually connected. If you look at the very bottom there on the ground, they still have one of the plates where it should be bolted together. And the underneath the top of frame on the ground where it ties in with the existing. Yeah, right there. That does not look like it's connected yet.
Okay, that goes over, down, back and around and in.
And they have one their plates there as if it's they do that somewhat sometimes when they can drop the plate in and bolt it shut.
Yeah, it looks like the same. It looks like it's the same type of plate that they've got farther over to the right, across from the Locks Hippos there, right by your hand. There's another one there at that junction.
Yeah. There's a spacer ring on one of them.
Yeah, okay. Yep. Oh, here's that's something too, isn't it?
Yeah, you can drop that in the gap as a filler, or you can just put that plate in, sort of things.
Cool. So that's the Locks farm. I'll separate a couple of little things, and I guess they're just commissioning items. That's pretty well. Oh, and another couple of pumps. It's getting pretty well finished. Now where the photo? This one will do for this, I think. For the ship booster cryo station stand. It's had a lot of work done to it. It's looking nicely tidied up. They put these boards back in. This board back down in here got knocked around too a bit from the CPV tanks. That's looking pretty good again. I can't see much rubbish around anymore. Or rubbish or bits and pieces of booster 18, I should say. That all seems to be cleared up. Now try and find a picture with the ship cryo stand in it as well. Oh, there's a better photo of the booster cryo stand. There was one here, this one might do, that doesn't look like they haven't done any more work on the ship cryo station with the SQD system up here. Looks like that pipe is still run out there, so they're still got to get rid of that pipe and hook it back into here. Does appear, I think, BJ, that's a new pipe. Does appear like there's a new pipe coming up through here. I'm not sure what that's about.
Yeah, that piece was definitely new from the last flyover, kind of heading in the direction of where the QD will end up being.
Oh, it's just strapped in there too. I love these straps.
Those are permanent straps.
I know, they went and put them in the new QD on the flame trench on me. I thought they might have found a better design for that, but anyway, here we are. Oh, that's how half an hour mass is. Let's go towards the front of the site. Now, the big thing at the front of the site is obviously the test article B 18.3 now has a cap. Well, it has a ship aft section on it, skirt section.
So I believe
No dome.
I believe this is the first time that we're actually seeing what the inside of a version 3 ship skirt would look like. Granted, it's missing, some of the hardware that might be in there related to like the RCS and whatnot, but this is what the inside of the skirt would look like in a kind of a bare, just a structural portion of it.
Yeah, 3D models would be loving this. So there's no dome, although the cap will sort of make the structural integrity of a dome. Not that it really needs it, because it's only testing the truss, really. So I wasn't sure all the way along whether it actually put the cap straight on the truss or whether they would use actually ship aft section. So it appears the latter is true. I still have no idea what these frames. I can't see this image over here. Where are they? Over there. What these frames are still. Doesn't seem to be anything to do with the truss interstage testing.
Yeah, and a good sign for the testing too is that we've seen this week that they started installing the pull-down rams onto the new mounts around the base as well.
They have, yeah. It's like they got every second one sort of in. But there are mounts down the bottom for every single one of these rams. And we counted just nearby here the rods are sitting nearby. Where are they? At the front here somewhere. All the rods are here, and I think I counted 20 in there. So I've got all the rods ready for it. So that's good to see. Some more testing going on. Got no idea what's going on with test tank 18.1. I don't think we've seen any testing over the holiday period, but still very much set up, ready for another test.
We can kind of also see in some shots how the new clamps between the stages will function a little bit. I'm not sure if this photo shows it the best, or might be another one, Stephanie, as well. But also to add, not having a dome on this is probably fine, just because the cap itself will hold the very top of this kind of in a circular form. But they also want to test a little bit of the bottom of the skirt, because it's basically just an open circle with the hoop stiffeners. So if they pull down on this and the bottom of the skirt starts to widen, and move the whole truss of the top of the booster out, they do want to know if that's going to happen. Yeah, so I guess it's really hard to see in here, but with where the clamps are, there's the kind of that lead in for the alignment in there. Yeah, you can kind of see it there along the side. So the clamps will actually kind of interface on either side of that. So they're all kind of hidden internal. So we won't really see anything sticking out from the side of the inside of the skirt on the ship. And the clamps don't function like they did previously. So pretty much all the clamps will be kind of inside there. We won't really see much. That's pretty much what it's going to look like, even with a final vehicle.
And they're tucked in nicely out of the way of the plume of the backs.
Yeah, they basically took the clamp design from the existing version 2 or version 1. They basically split it in half so that instead of just kind of latching and forcing out on the skirt, they basically just rotated each half 90 degrees. So they kind of pinch inward, and that allows them to tuck them back kind of inside the wall. So they're a lot further out of the way of the plume. And so that'll be ideal now, as well as probably later if they switch to the 6 engines. They probably won't need to redesign the clamps very much.
Awesome. Okay, now the rest of down the front, and we'll get on to some questions. It's not much else down the front. So just over the back, get this shot quickly. Over here, that's the old crusher. I keep getting the old cryo station and the old crusher mixed up. And it hasn't had any modifications this week. Neither has any of this equipment. It just seems to be sitting there. So it's still, I think Alex, I know, was sort of suggesting maybe these belong to this stand. I think someone line, maybe that's correct.
I'm still on the fence on that, but
yeah, it's me too, because it's like 3 posts in here, and I don't know. Yeah.
useless trivia. Next to the birdcage, they have an extra strut for the inner stage, right? Right there, yeah.
A new ring has arrived. Got no idea what that's for. Some more of the. Are they the pull down rams for the? They're not, are they? They're not long enough. They're just sitting.
Yeah, those are those. I think they may have installed 10 already, and those may be the other 10 for the old crusher.
I did get them mixed up. I knew I'd get them mixed up. Never mind. So this little ship stand down here has been stripped. I think down here we saw, yeah, its old clamps are down here. That's not the best image, but that'll do. This one's better, I think. The old style clamps are down here. We saw some parts here last play we thought maybe associated with here, but they moved down wherever they are, they're in the area, but they're probably just here being staged as a staging area rather than anything in particular. This whole area's looking nicely finished off. Still got a bit of concreting to do here and there. Now, I'm not sure if I missed anything massive, but let's, while we're thinking about that, let's switch over to questions in the chat. Matt?
Yeah, absolutely. We just have a few so far. Crane Man put a few in earlier when we were talking about the test structure that's being built. His first one is, could that squeeze test have something to do with the actuator upgrade at Pad B?
Well, to be honest, we saw this test on a booster article like we saw in that other photo before. A booster catch, so I think it's more to do with the vehicle than the tower, in my opinion anyway.
All right, and another one from Crane Man says, squeeze test at Massey's could protect the sticks when it fails.
Well, I think one of the things to remember is that the sticks have the bump stops, so they can only close to a certain level. If they're looking to put some kind of extra force on the vehicle that would be in excess of what the sticks can close to, you wouldn't potentially be able to do all the same testing with the sticks that you could with this particular rig if it turns out similar to the previous version.
They might relate to, they did the slap test, didn't they, actually, up on the OLM1. I think maybe Crane Man's referring to that, sorry. I forgot about that. Thank you. Thanks, Matt.
Yep, and then the last one from Crane Man, he asks, could the top of the frame hold lifting arms to lower the left and right side squeeze frames to test the hull of the ship while static firing?
I had kind of floated the idea that maybe they could do this testing while doing a static fire. Basically, the idea with that would be it would kind of be like a reverse frame of reference where instead of the ship moving into the arms would be kind of moving to the ship. It seems a little extreme, I think, for maybe what they would want to do. But it's possible that they could do it at the same time as a static fire. That might be why they want to do it here, where they can fire a ship where they don't have the infrastructure to do that, at the launch site without, a bunch of stuff. So that could be an additional part of this.
That's interesting. I didn't think of that. Thank you, Crane Man. Thanks, Brian.
And
okay,
there's a couple more questions we've answered, and then last question is from Nicholas Dornan. Let me see if I can kind of collude what he's trying to get at. I guess he's talking about the new structure that has the two rings on top, or the new test article, and he's saying, could we have the pull-down ropes possibly being back at work with this test article? Like maybe they'll be using that to test the hot staging ring?
Nope, they're using rods.
Yeah. What Steph said.
Same rods, exactly the same as this in here. The cap is exactly the same, although the new cap isn't modified. So the old cap, there's still where the ropes used to attach, with the new cap.
Right. I think the question was more of, do you guys think that test article is going to be put in there for that strength test and stuff?
Absolutely. The cap's going on top, yep, and the rods are going down to the rams they're installing down in the bottom, and they're going to squeeze it.
So it would be a test of basically the very bottom of the ship where it combines with the top of the booster and then just the forward section of the booster. So they want to crush that to make sure that, when they're flying, the acceleration that they've got and the air resistance that there's, especially with the mass that you have in the ship with all the cryogenics for the upper stage, basically to make sure that this structure isn't going to deform or crush, during the high stress environment like Max Q.
Exactly.
Perfect. And then we just had one last one come in from Captain Fish. They said, was the new semi-enclosed area discussed on the south side of Massey's, and what's its purpose? I believe they're probably talking about that COPV testing area.
South side, let me think. Oh, that's the south side, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
COPV testing.
Or they added another station or two?
They've added one. Yeah, there's 5 this flyover. That's right. Last flyover there was only 4 stations. This week they've added one. Thanks, Alex.
And it does seem like they are taking the COPVs that they either had already integrated on vehicles or are yet to be integrated on vehicles. They've put them in little crates. They've driven them out here and hooked them up. I believe there's maybe 4 of them they can test at one time, for each of these little stations. So technically they could test 20 COPVs here at the exact same time. But it seems like they're basically doing some extra qualification on those COPVs before integrating with a vehicle. So essentially I would imagine they're probably loading these, with the same sort of logic that they would when they're actually in practice on vehicles. There's maybe been some concerns if you load them too quickly, you create too much heat, too much friction, and you want to make sure that you're testing them exactly how you plan to use them. So that's probably why they set these stations up.
Yeah, and that they're fed by a high pressure line that runs back. Where is it? Down here somewhere. It runs. There it runs down here and hooks into the high pressure line just at the other side of this bunker here. This photo might show it. Yeah. There it is. There, high pressure line running to it. Runs all the way down into the bunker here.
And that's all the questions we have for Massey's.
Okay, thanks everyone. Fantastic questions. Thank you. So let's jump over to Sanchez. So we'll look over the launch site later on. We'll find a heap of manifolds that were sitting here last flyover. Moved over to the launch site. Now, does anybody in chat have anything to do with the industry that have anything to do with these devices? Came up in show and tell. What are they? There is a reverse shot. I'll try and find it. One sec. Here it is. So they do seem to be some kind of self-contained unit. They appear to have tanks in there, but there's also some kind of accessory hardware hanging off this end of them. So if anyone's got any idea what they are, it'd be nice to know. Thanks. COPV drop test. No. Imagine doing that under pressure. I think they've done a few of them already, haven't they? Didn't Booster 18 drop a few of them under pressure? Okay, enough of that shenanigans. So, it looks like this ship transport stand seems fairly finished up, or at least on the outside anyway. There may still be some plumbing or what have you. Looks like they've still got access to inside, so in a few places they have access. So it's mostly finished up anyway. Some nice stickers around the outside. Oh, sorry, Ryan.
No, I was just going to say these new transport stands are they're pretty cool. I like them a lot. They're an evolution on the original ones that make them look a little bit closer to the booster. So same sort of concept as the booster when they've got the kind of those flanges on the outside to bolt them to the SPMTs when they drive underneath. So yeah, right there.
Yeah, I've been waiting for these to come along ever since the new booster transport stands were built. Because I was kind of a bit over the whole chain system they have to hold the ships onto the SPMTs at the moment. I mean, to hold the stands onto the SPMTs. Okay, the second number 2 is welded together. It was only half welded together last flyover. So it's still getting actually welded together as we speak. And most of the parts of number 3, I think it's still missing a long and a middle section. So they've got at least 3 ship transport stands right off the bat. And these are going together really quick and easy. That seems like a very simple construction, to be honest. I mean, even compared to the boosted transport stand, although, you know, the boosted transport stand has to have these slides so I can get around the engine bells, but the ship really doesn't, so it does lead itself to a much more simple design.
Yeah, the clamp mechanisms inside the ship transport stand is going to be a lot simpler. Should probably either be pneumatic or hydraulic, maybe even electric. Honestly, could maybe steal power from the SPMTs to actually function those. That'd be kind of neat.
Yeah, I tried that idea too, that they use power from the, whether it be electrical or even hydraulic power from the SPMTs themselves. I thought that with the boost to those adapters I have for the SPMTs, but they seem to be self-contained. But once again, whether they've got a little diesel engine on them or whether they run electric motor off the SPMT's electrical system, I'm not actually 100% sure about that.
These would be really easy to be electric, I think. The actual booster with the slides, it's a little bit more intense to do with an electric actuator, so I wouldn't be surprised if those remain the way they were.
Well, these are electric. The slide mechanisms are electric, as far as I know.
Did they? Okay, at one point I thought they were hydraulic. Did they switch those to electric?
As far as I know, they've always been electric. Electric motor running the worm, basically a threaded rod, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm not sure on that. I'm not sure if they're linear actuators or if they're hydraulic. They look like it could be either way.
I know they used the
Oh,
screw.
yeah.
I just didn't know if it was electric or hydraulically driven, screw.
Oh, I see. Because I remember when it was being constructed, we saw inside some of these holes, and yeah, there was a mechanical system on the screw. True, whether the actual motor that drives them could be a hydraulic motor, could be electric motor, I guess is what you're saying there. Thank you. Yeah, that I don't know. I thought they were electric, but they could very well be hydraulic motors, Ryan. Thanks. And whether these actually have a, like inside, once again, electric powered hydraulic pump that runs off the SPMTs themselves or off that little adapter frame, I'm not sure. Whether there's a little diesel motor inside or whatever, I'm not sure about how they're actually getting the actual power to run either the hydraulics or the electric. But I do like the idea of picking it up off the SPMTs because I'm pretty sure they have PTOs as far as electrical and hydraulic. Okay, moving on. For those who love junk that gets held on for ages and ages, I still have a SQD, an old ship version 2 plate. Now these bits, I'm not sure where this bit goes. I'm not sure whether this goes onto the stand at Massey's or not yet. So there seems to be everything needed for Massey's except for these last couple of expirations. Oh, they've been moved anyway to Massey's now last night. So it seems to be like they've got everything moved to Massey's now for that frame at the Flame Trent. Photo shot, yeah. Not sure. Well, I don't know. It's got sort of the same gusset, hasn't it? So maybe it is something to do with it over there. I don't know. It's only minor anyway. They seem to have moved 2 of these things over here, which being 3 could have something to do with that. The testing hardware at Massey's with that 3. Where is that? Let me come back to that quickly. At the front. That's not it. I might do those 3. There's 3 pieces here, sort of similar sort of size, sort of lugs now hanging off it, so it might have something to do with that system. They're pretty beefy, whatever they're going to be for. Okay, so what's next along here? The ship QD extension. Let me just find that quickly. Now, I've got some really, there it is there. I've got some really good shots, but hang on a minute. This one's a better shot. It's looking fantastic, I must say. So much going on, and I think Alex, you were saying it looks like it's built with maintenance crew in mind.
Yeah. You have easy access to a lot of the pressure and temperature sensors, switching out the high pressure flux lines. Yeah, everything is just easily accessible.
Have we figured out if the those platforms there rotate at all?
They swing in and out. I think that's in their deployed position.
It actually looks like they would, the pivot point, instead of being on the outside corner, would actually have to be inside by the QD, would it not?
I'm not sure where the pivot is from this image. On ground photos, you can see it better.
I think those are too fuzzy in this angle.
Is the thing you'd have to kind of think about is if this is, you know, up against a ship, because this does extend, this arm extension compared to pad 1's does come a lot closer to the ship already. And I would assume that these platforms here are in the proper positions so that crews can go up on top of them and remove, you know, tape or whatever it may be from the ports on the actual ship. So that little cutout that you were kind of hovering over, Stephanie, that's kind of where the ship would kind of be, not, you know, directly up against that. There'd be some gap, of course, but if the based on where the pivot point would need to be for these platforms, you wouldn't actually be able to move these platforms if a ship were there. That's kind of what I'm getting at.
Yeah, because I think the pivot point, Ryan, is where that X is, and right below the. Yeah, I think that's where it is.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was wondering, because if that's where it's at, then as you rotate it back, that could also explain why there's not a railing here toward like the bottom part of that platform, because it would kind of fold back on itself a little bit. Even the shape, I guess, as well. If you rotate that 90 degrees, it would be roughly where the arm, I guess, is for the QD actuation as it rotates forward.
So these would have to rotate back away from the ship, is what you're saying, is it? These have to come back this way.
Kind of, yeah. If the rotation point is down where that X was, if you go to the left of the X, nope, just above. Yeah, so that X there, so now shift to the left on the back part of it. So if the pivot point is about right in that back part, then as you rotate that, you know, basically toward us, you're already at kind of the maximum radius point that the platform would be at. So as it rotates, it would actually come away from the ship.
Yeah. And the only thing I'm not orientated with is the QD above or below this platform.
Right now it would be below, but then when they push it out, it should basically extend a little bit past into that platform.
Go above it? Is the QD on the
Yeah,
ship above
yeah.
this platform? Yeah.
Yeah, I'd have to go above it.
Cool. Oh, that makes sense, of course. Yep, thank you. So yeah, rather an elegant design. So we've also got these the rods here ready to put the linkages to attach it to the actual SQD arm. Now I think I'm not the only one, but I was only. Where did I put that? Oh, I put it in the launch. Hang on, wrong folder. Hang on. I think I put it over in this folder. Yeah, so I didn't know this until yesterday that there's another linkage in here, and I didn't really realise what was going on with it. So I thought this was a fixed point hinge, and this was a fixed point hinge, and it only needed that top and bottom linkage. But Alex has informed me now that this actual piece of steel here can rotate So you can adjust. This gives you a tiny bit of up and down on the end of this arm here. So that's why there's two linkages in here. Thanks, Ryan Hanson, for this image. A picture's always say 1,000 words, and especially some of these graphics that you do, because we can sort of isolate what we're actually trying to look at away from all the pipe and plumbing and all the stuff that gets in the way of some of the actual images. So that's awesome. So they're in. There's the three linkages are in place. So it's all like taped up, ready to lift or just to put on top of that to drive an SPMT under. Looks like we've got the pipe stands, and looks like there's room for an SPMT to run straight underneath it and take it on down to the launch site. And we'll go back over this again when we get to the launch site. I think we're going to see this roll in the next even few days or so. Okay, in chat. Oh, there's nearly 800 in chat. Awesome. Nice turnout.
Yeah, point out the those links.
Oh, from the launch site. Yeah, they took the links out. This isn't the best photo. This one's, these must be more high res. You get the old one that's a tiny bit fuzzy. Yeah, that's better. So yeah, where the booster sits on, basically at the end of the clamp arms, we've seen these go in and out a couple of times now. They seem to be out. They seem to be sitting here. We couldn't find any other ones at the launch site, so these are more than likely the ones from the launch site. There's a chance that they're new ones, I guess. And the two, there's only one here now, the bumper little extensions. We'll cover that at the launch site as well. There's a bit of speculation going on with them, which is pretty awesome. Thank you, Alex. These funny circular things haven't shown what they're for yet. They haven't been used or anything, so still got no idea what they are, except they create some kind of a circle or part thereof. Diver proof, and it's still sitting down there. We're further down there. It's not moved or anything happened with it since it was used. So was it IB done proofing now? I guess its next stop would be 39A in Florida to do the testing over there, I'd imagine, on its OLM. The Gigabay or Megabay platforms assemblies pretty well in full swing over this area. I'd imagine they'll continue to use up area where they can for that. I guess especially for the Gigabay, it's going to need quite a few platforms. We might not see them getting built just yet, but I guess at the moment they're still fitting out the Megabays, which is kind of odd considering the Gigabay will kind of make the Megabay one at least sort of obsolete. So it's kind of funny that they're still fitting out the Megabays for now.
Still have a bunch of V3 vehicles to build before.
Well, Gigabay's ready.
Yeah, and we actually saw quite a bit of hardware coming out with what we think were actually some of the platform in the back right corner. Megabay 1 was coming out this week. Some of the like the safety railings around the elevator and things like that, getting ready for the new ones to go in place.
Awesome. So yeah, no Gigabay. Gigabay is probably the wrong call. So no Gigabay platforms for now, but in the future. There's all the different shapes, all the different little places they put these platforms in, whether they be in corners or in the, like for the middle platform and so on. There's all the different sort of shapes for them all. Those odd shapes over here haven't had anything done with them still. I thought they used the first set of X's they used. I'm not sure it was those ones in particular. They used two side by side, but last night's transport of the X's, there was only two of the X's that they only put them on. Might have even been that. Oh, a 10 axle, wasn't it? This one here, maybe they put it onto this one. A single one to transport those cross braces down to Massey's. What else in this area quickly before I leave it? There's not a great deal, I think. Oh, we've used another half an hour up. Looks like they finished putting all the wall panels on. I think they did that last flyover anyway on that building. So it's probably pretty well ready to be used in its new, whatever its new usage is going to be. Okay, switching over to the scrapyard. There's a new article here. Some kind of, what were you calling it, BJ? Some kind of dome?
Yeah, it looked like some kind of bridge access that came out of the factory, maybe for doing work on the tips of maybe a forward dome or something like that, or any of the domes really for that matter during construction.
And this looks like there may be a new set or something like it back here in the ring yard towards the rear of the factory. It sort of seems like a similar thing going on here. This angle was better for that, sorry. And here. Sort of seems like that same odd sort of shape, so perhaps that's an iteration happening right before our eyes, which we've seen many, many times. Oh, it's just a crane down there. Cool. Oh, what's in the blue wrapper? Shiny. Didn't see that.
That's a way to
one.
know their holiday gifts.
Maybe. So the old ship 32, isn't it, is still here. And the cap of booster 18. And the memories of Nixon. Oh, that's a Pink Floyd song. Over here at this at the rocket garden, they've removed the landing tank out of the booster 18. There's better shots of that. Yeah, this one's not a bad shot of that. You can kind of see where the plumbing beneath the landing tank was. There's an access hole here. Last flyover there was scaffolding through there to get access. Yeah, the booster transport stands, these sort of have their hydraulics here, but I'm not sure whether these are actually got like an internal combustion motor in here to power them, or if it picks up electricity off the SPMT. Maybe the ship transport stand. Oh, so it's going to use these as well. That's right. So the new ship transport stands is going to use these adapter frames as well on top of the SPMTs. Actually, these exact ones. They may need to make more of these soon.
Yeah, I'll be curious to see if they actually use that one, or if they maybe use the one similar to the ones they use with the booster transport or with the cryo stands that are across the aisle. Because I've been trying to decipher how those bolt holes that we've seen around the bottom of the ship transport stand almost reminds me of some of the bolt holes we've seen on the older cryo stands, but I don't. Maybe it's not connected to each other. But yeah, that cycle there with those gussets and those bolt plates almost makes me think it's a different interface from what the ships are, or from the booster stands.
Because the booster stand over on the right has the exact same pattern. I think they may have added it to it. It's down there along the edge.
Oh yeah, you're right. I don't remember
So,
seeing that before.
Whatever they're doing, it's common between the two of them.
Very good, Ryan. I didn't
Yeah,
see that either.
So I guess I'd venture a guess that there's probably a new design they might be using that would have like the plates that would maybe bolt to, and then whether or not they have like a quick release on the SPMTs is maybe, a question, but you can expect that some sort of an adapter plate is going to bolt to those, I think.
Across the way, there's those on the those four. Wondering if
Oh, that does look like the same curve.
Yeah, and those are the four that I think those are the four that they've always used with the old booster cryo stand, which was kind of what just popped in my head when I saw those ones, and then you pointed out the booster ones too. It definitely seems like it's all an iteration for sure.
This one doesn't seem to have it yet. This one does, I think. This one doesn't seem to have it yet.
Yeah, that one probably wouldn't have it because it hasn't gone through the conversion for version 3 yet. It still has the version 2 booster on it. So yeah, they would go through kind of their refresh, process, and they would get it then.
Yeah. Yep. And this old stand. Okay, let's go to this area over here. This is the shot. So yes, some iteration going on the ship cryo stand. Quite dramatic structural work happening here. They've removed two of these uprights from over here, which is sitting down. Where was I? Just down here somewhere. Is it out of shot?
The white bollards, yeah, right there.
Right there. So actually, which is what was holding this ring up. Are they temporary posts they put in while they're doing this work? Is it? Yeah.
Yeah. And the advanced ladder technique.
Oh, this one. Yeah. The Aussie style, upside down.
She said it, not me.
I thought there was another shot more of this angle, around this angle. Hang on, it doesn't really matter, but yeah. So yeah, it looks so there's so the other 1, 2, 3 about here. So maybe they're putting these like in between all the way around. Oh, there's another one over there. That's right. So I mean, this has to be ready for ship to cryo test. So it looks like this January launch thing. I mean, this has to be finished. There's stuff to do at the launch at Massey's. The whole cryo station at Massey's still needs to be finished. So I really can't see even ship being cryoed this month, to be honest, let alone flying.
It sure is interesting how the static fire stand is a lot farther ahead than the cryo stands, that's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it still hasn't got its RVAC braces either over there at Massey's.
Got a new paint job.
Sorry?
It got a new paint job. Or was it all painted last week?
Oh, I'm not sure. Last play, I'm not sure. So that's interesting that they're totally sort of redesigning that stand.
I think you guys were talking about them kind of reclocking where the support structure is on the middle ring there. I didn't know if maybe that had anything to do with maybe getting it ready for possibly 6 engines, if they'd reorient those and have the thrust for the other 3 RVACs in a different spot.
Yeah, they've really reworked this center. There's another batch of actuators underneath it on rocker arms for.
That was done for the 39.1 test article, and they seem to be still in there. They don't seem to be modifying them or these actuators up here. So Ryan, you reckon maybe another push, like another ram up through here for the 4th, 5th, and 6th position?
It's possible. I'm not sure, I guess, if they are completely reorienting where those are, or if they're just kind of shifting them around, and maybe they're going from, I guess I'm not even sure how many there were originally, if there were only 3, if now they're going to 6, or what that ends up looking like when it's done.
Well, there's only about 3. There's only about 3 of these pairs and 3 rams. You knew that. I'm not sure that's what you're saying.
Yeah, so if they're, it kind of looks like if you've got your 120 degree difference between the existing ones that are still there, that third one would have been down here on the lower right, which is now completely gone, but then they've added a support kind of on either side of that. So that kind of seems to indicate that there would be a total of 6 locations where those supports would be, which could be the 6 equidistant RVACs.
I think maybe there's going to be one of these sitting here as well in this old spot. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I can see that. And there's a room for a ram to go up. Similar to these, there's a room for a ram to go up in between here. Actuator, if you want to call it. Very interesting to see what happens with that.
Well,
Okay, let's move on to the ship static fire stand 2. We've got the ring pretty well together. Legs and the horizontal bars are over here. 1, 2, 3. Where's the fourth leg?
Hasn't arrived yet.
Of course it hasn't. Okay, so that's mostly Sanchez. Have we got any questions for Sanchez?
We got a couple. Sputnik Geezer asks, any movement on getting ready to start construction on Pad 1 V2 launch mount?
no, not yet.
And then we got one from Nicholas Dornan. Sorry, I gotta try to convert this one as well. Basically, they're looking for information on those great big white circles, the gas wells, and what are they planning to do with it? What's the purpose, etc.
They probably were up for their every couple year inspection, and you probably have to have a demarc where you're not supposed to, or just marking where they are.
Not supposed to put a car inside them.
Well, you might be able to, because there's nothing painted like indicating keep out.
No, there's
They're
writing on them.
Yeah, we saw the stencils last week, but yeah, I don't recall there being anything of saying keep out of it. I mean, even the markings over by the FTS bunker that say danger, keep out area isn't necessarily obeyed all the time either.
They're probably just supposed to keep sure all major, components are not within that circle, I would imagine.
Awesome. And then our last question's from Kiwi Liam. What is the fabrication tent at Sanchez currently being used for?
Oh, the big inventory tent. This tent, I guess they're talking about. Pretty sure it's just inventory. I'm not sure. I'd love to have a walk through that tent as well, actually. More of this, I guess. It's called the inventory tent. I mean, that is where we saw. What we saw in here, the plate, wasn't it? The water plate for the launch pad 1.
Yeah, we can be pretty sure they're probably not building another one of those in there.
That's for sure.
And that's
Cool.
all we got.
Thank you very much. So now, launch build site. That was that one, yeah. I really like this image. I like the colours. It's pretty cool. Shows the wetlands nicely. The shifting sands. Okay, on to, I promised I'd say, on to, I don't know, I hope to take this rightly. It's a very common thing in Australia to say, this is BJ's baby. This one here.
It is certainly one of the things that I spend a lot of time watching while sitting at my desk working. It's usually Rover 1's usually on one screen, kind of watching and tracking how everything's going. I'm not even going to say how detailed I've tracked some of the things on this building, but because it borders on OCD. But yeah, we got all 4 cranes climbed up, ready to kind of take on this 3rd level of steel head on now that they've completed the 2nd level of columns and moving their way up. This week we got it. We had last flyover. I think it was prior to them actually getting to a full lift, so we didn't actually see any of the supports that they've added to support the towers to the building itself. We had seen how the attachment points on those columns as they built over the last month or so, and there we can see the three tie beams that connect over to the collar to help support that tower as they grow taller and taller. So doesn't sway too much.
And this triangle stops at twisting as well.
Yep, similar to how we were talking about how that linkage works with the SQD arm. It's kind of some of the same principles in terms of locating the corners of the tower.
I've got lugs up here, so something's going on in the center here, perhaps.
Yeah, I think we probably won't really get an idea until they start building the other side. If it's for some kind of temporary construction bridge work across the aisle, or if it's, I'm hoping that it's more of just like a cantilevered short work access that might be related to some of the final fit outs and whatnot, where the aisles are quite a bit wider than a vehicle, so they could make use of some of that space, that floor space, but maybe they don't need it at the ground level. It's only up at the higher levels that they maybe want to be able to wrap around a little bit more. So we'll have to see. The addition of that additional diagonal brace work in there definitely supports that they're going across with those tabs, and there's tabs as well for the brace works to go that direction as well, for whatever cantilevered structure is going out there.
At first, I was thinking they might, put a temporary beam across to just kind of hold the structure all as one as they build up, but that seems kind of excessive to do that because it's not just like in one or two. It seems like a bunch of those have that tab on it, right?
Yeah, so far every partition at the sixth and seventh floor have those to continue across. It'll be an interesting part when we start to see the other side, if they have those attachments over particularly on the Star Factory side, just because of the kind of what we expect to be a completely different usage of those cells over there. Maybe if those didn't have it, it would maybe lean itself more towards, okay, it's just a short cantilever to gain that extra access around the aisle side of a vehicle being worked on.
OGBJ, share your OCD data with us, please. So you've got quite a bit of data. How many columns are there all up?
I could actually look that up, but I'm not going to pull it up. But needless to say, I'm now tracking the date of install on every column. I've got a spreadsheet that's a graphical representation of it. That's one step farther that I've taken on all the things that I did with even on the piles underneath and all the concrete pours.
So how many levels of steel? So this is 1, 2. Sorry, man, I'm just quickly glancing over at the chat while BJ's talking. So far we're going 1, 2, 3. You're saying there's about 6, isn't there?
Depending on, I think the big question mark is how tall the roof structure and potential penthouses are going to be. I think Dave had heard rumor that there might be actually 2 levels to the penthouse, whether that's like the Gigabay 2 style or Megabay 2 style, where the roof structure is there and maybe they put an intermediate level in it to make that second level. How tall that roof truss structure is, I think, is going to determine how many column segments there are. Right now, my best guess is that there might be 5 levels of these 60-ish foot tall columns, maybe a 6th one that's like a half or 2/3 of a level before we go into the roof truss structures. That's my best guess right now, because five levels at 62-ish feet gets us just over 300 feet. 384 is the FAA documents total height. So you kind of have to do some math. Another 60 foot would only be a 20-foot roof truss, which I think is too shallow. So something like that.
Cool. You can see at the Megabay end, the outer wall now continues to go through. There is some door hardware in amongst here, and there's an a weird intermittent level here, which, because on the other areas there's, down lower there was 3 intermittent levels down lower, just down there lower, but up in here there's just 1 intermittent level. Should be concrete as well.
Yeah,
That's only over the doors.
similar. We've seen similar. Kind of watching some of the stuff over at the Roberts Road Gigabay. They've got some of those similar levels. I think 1 level higher actually is where I've seen it there. So it seems like they're getting to a level of maybe some utility room space up there for mechanicals that are not related to the actual crew access to the work cells themselves.
And so from now all the way up to the rear, we can pretty well safe bet that they're going to have this full width wall right along this end of the bay. All right, that's Gigabay. Awesome. Thank you so much, BJ. I really appreciate your input with the Gigabay. It's awesome. It's pretty cool that you're tracking it as much as you are. That's awesome. And yeah, nothing to be embarrassed about. We're all a bit OCD when it comes to Starbase in general, so you're in good company. Don't worry about that.
Yep, just time for me to take some cells and move them from my I have one spreadsheet that's kind of doing comparisons between the 2 bays to kind of track the paces and whatnot. I just need to move all of my individual column level spreadsheets over, so I could have just pulled up and went, oh, this cell tells me right now how many columns they've installed, but I don't have that yet.
Cool. All right.
At least you're willing to share your information, BJ. I don't.
I do. I am stopping short of doing anything on the rest of the steel. It's just columns that are going on. But yeah, I had the idea at one point just so I could really track average time of how long it takes to build it, and then I decided to backlog into some historical archives and figure out when all the first 2 levels were done.
The new penthouse, John T is saying the new penthouse is Zach's new condo for his episodes. Be interesting to see what he does on the next episode. Okay, on to Megabays. Megabay 1, still only housing booster 19, and it's probably still on the front turntable. It could have been moved to one of the workstations by now. Not sure if anything in here tells us anything about that. Hopefully one of these flyovers will get a door up and an image from on that angle from the rear there. We'll be able to see whether it's actually in that spot or not. I still haven't seen any parts for booster 20 yet, so sort of delaying on that a little bit, but I imagine booster 20 is probably pretty well, all its bits are probably assembled in the factory, ready to be stacked, I would imagine. Around the back of Megabay 2, hang on. I had a better shot than that. There it is. The new 4-point lifter is still attached to 39, and the old 4-point lifter seems to be completely gone, so it looks like it's been scrapped. We can see the landing tank install jig here. Other various lifting and whatever devices in the area. In Megabay 2, we're still a heap of CRPVs sitting out. So I'm not sure whether they've actually finished testing CRPVs yet or not. It sort of doesn't look like it. Megabay 2 is still at 39, ship 39 on the centre rear stand with scaffolding all over it. Roller disco, what? We used to do roller disco when we were kids. That was a long time ago. Wow. Jeez, that was a flashback. Who was that? Doc John. And also in the back here, there's that new barrel section sitting on the turntable back here. Oh, hang on. That's not what rolled. No, that's not what rolled to the masses, is it? No.
No, that test article, that 4-barrel is still on the turntable yet.
Oh, that's right. It's a 4-barrel. It had a different bottom too. I think in the photo, I don't know, is it my imagination, but it kind of looks like it had with little gussets, at the bottom of that test tank too, like we saw 39.1 had.
Yep, it definitely. I think I interpreted what we saw in that previous flyover the same way. Yeah.
Okay, so that's the megabays around the back. Around the back, where is that photo? There it is. We have some ship flaps we haven't seen for quite some time. So there's an aft one and 2 forward ones.
So there is something special about this aft flap. It is actually different than the flaps that were used on version 2. If you remember when they went to the version 2 forward flaps, they made them a lot smaller. They also went from the shape kind of being tapered to kind of a flat with like rounded edges. But they did introduce these smaller tiles that go along the leading edge of the flap. And so they've now made that switch on this flap here. So you can see all the smaller tiles there. It will be a little interesting to see how they do this because these flaps are actually still tapered. The aft flaps are actually tapered still. So along the straight edge there, it's fine because they basically just stack them up like bricks. But once you get to the top here and you start to get that diagonal that goes back toward the hinge, the actual kind of thickness of the flap changes as you get closer to that hinge point. So those tiles will have to be a little different. They were all kind of custom with the old flaps, so they'll still have to be custom with these flaps, but it's just in the shadow region. We can't quite make out the details of what those look like, but at some point there's going to be a little bit of a interesting transition, and the tiles will be a little bit different than before. But the tiles there along the edge I believe they should be pinned if they're like the version 2 forward flaps. So that should help out quite a bit. They probably don't have to do as much gluing there.
We can actually see that taper here, can't we? It seems thinner here than a bit thicker up there.
Yeah, you can kind of see that in the kind of the white gap fill there. Yeah, you can kind of see some parallel lines.
Cool. Thanks for that, Ryan. Appreciate it. Not much happening in that photo. Now, around the back, we had a little look before. Around back here, it's not much change in that area. So we'll jump into the apartment building. They've got, this corner's been finished in glass, that corner hasn't yet. There's different angles we've got. The front facade's got this lovely pattern going on with it, and it actually matches this, the angle on this parapet wall at the top seems to match that angle. And we go around the other side. It's going to continue on this side. It took me way too long to work out what you were talking about with this angle down here yesterday. But they're doing the same thing here. You can see tying up into that parapet wall there as well. That's going to be all pretty. Nice architectural shape. So maybe that back corner, we're sort of thinking maybe it's going to be an open balcony for that particular corner. Maybe here as well might be some open balconies over here perhaps, or it gets covered with glass, I'm not sure yet. That's pretty well finished the facade along here as well. They're starting to tidy up some groundwork, get the entrances and exits sorted out. Maybe they'll be able to use this parking garage sooner than later, even before they fit out the rest of the building. Just going back around to where is that shot? Back around this side. So I guess we can see glass going all the way across the top along the back here, and then down the bottom perhaps the shop fronts down here won't have that glass going all the way to the floor. me go back to the other side for a sec. Does this one go right down? No, this one doesn't go right down to the floor either. To the ground, I mean. This block down here, they've been filling in with dirt. Sorry, that was a bit quick. Down here, they've been filling this block of land in with soil, and now it's got some gravel on top, so getting ready to have whatever's going to go there. I guess at least we'll see this walkway and storm wall continue through here. Let me just see if there's a shot. Oh, not quite. Yeah, this might do it. Yeah, hopefully we'll get to see them finish that walkway through. See, they've angled it. Maybe they're going to follow along that actual edge right along there, actually, with that walkway. And then I'm not sure, bring it around here, whatever. But anyway, it's only a minor detail. And the rest of the village, not a lot going on. The work is advancing on this building. So finally getting to the roof. So there's a few delays with this set of 5 compared to this set of 7. They've even actually moved into this set of 7. I'm just seeing who got Cybertrucks and who didn't get Cybertruck. You got one, you didn't get one. You didn't get one. Cybertrucks everywhere. So they've marked all these with Cybertruck only all the way along here. So I guess there'll eventually be charging stations all the way along here as well for Cybertrucks. Man, there's a lot of them, eh? Not sure who picked up. Oh, it says it down there, Cybertruck only. Oh, yeah. Yep.
Yep, and chargers along yeah, and that's all chargers along the wall there.
Yeah, they just haven't finished over here, is that right? Yeah, they haven't got them over here yet. Oh, it's just a shadow. I thought there was something in there. Cool. So are they saying Cybertruck only 2, aren't they? Yeah. Yeah, so I'd say that that trench there should have charging stations pop up out of it. Oh, there's a new entrance here. Okay, I didn't realise that. Is that how they're getting into the medical bay? No, still not.
No, it looks like back access to get into the restaurant entrances there at the back.
Yeah. There is. Cool. Okay, so any questions or anything we missed at the build site? The build site's sort of a bit brief these days, except for Gigabay, really. The pool, yeah, pool's still up there. We don't tend to show it too much, but yeah, the pool is still over there. The new sort of volleyball area down in here, and the kids' playground area in here.
Yeah, we do have one question for the build area, but before we get into that, I did want to take a moment and talk to the viewers about something. The Astro Awards, which is hosted by Tim Dodd, which everybody knows from Everyday Astronaut, and he was just with us for our St. Jude fundraiser stream. He's putting on the Astro Awards. It's going to be in Austin, Texas, and it's 2 weeks from now, January 17th and 18th. It's going to be a really cool event. So it's not just an award show. This is a full 2-day like conference / con / party, like a whole bunch going on. So there's going to be a lot of people. There's going to be a lot of talks being given. There's going to be booths for people to go and meet some of these different space companies, and a lot of the directors and things will be there to talk to you guys. There's going to be a lot of the people that you know, like Jack Beyer from, formerly of NSF. He'll be there. Ellie in Space. Scott Manley, who was also with us on the St. Jude stream, he's going to be there as well. And so, yeah, there's going to be a lot of really cool stuff. Live music, the booths, companies and artists, the award show as well, and then of course you'll be able to connect with a whole bunch of other space nerds. So it's going to be a good time. 2 days, and as you see, there's going to be some astronauts and other people there. A lot of cool things. It's a yearly thing that Tim Dodd does and puts on. So if you guys are interested, go over there, check it out, and get your tickets because it's coming up really soon, just 2 weeks away.
Thank you very much. Okay, and with that, we'll head up to the launch site. Thank you, Matt, for reminding me of that.
Absolutely. And we did have that one question still. It's from David Moslin asking, where are the ship flaps built and why aren't they built in Star Factory?
Currently, they build them in Hawthorne, that the SpaceX, basically the big site that they have out there in Hawthorne. It's no longer the HQ, but that used to be the HQ. That's where they build a lot of the subcomponents for starships still that haven't fully been kind of moved over into Star Factory. And whether they will or not long term is maybe another question, but they still ship these from California.
Perfect, and that's the only one we had.
Thanks, Ryan. I didn't know the answer to that question. Thank you very much. Okay, off to the launch site. Up to the launch site we go. So there's a bit of development going on here with the new doors that they're adding this week. We've got a lot of the linkage components in place. Let me find the images this one will do to start with. So there's, we think, 3 doors. Yeah, it's a third door down there. The original door. And we're seeing a lot of the linkage systems being put in place now for the doors. In here, there was a good image. Where was that? Have I got it already? No. Let me just find it. 1 second. There is a good image around of that 90-degree piece somewhere. I just got to find it.
Yeah, that previous image you had was one of the ones we were looking at Tower Stuff last night that I think had the right vantage point.
I'll back around from this side. 1 sec.
Yeah, this angle was a good one. I don't know if this was the specific one we looked at, but
Yeah, I think
So
that's
there's
the best ones.
So that's the upside down L-shaped piece of steel. Then there's the boomerang in there. And let me get this right. Attachment points to the door is that attachment point, and that attachment point is actually where the door attaches.
No. Yeah. The door only attaches to the bottom of the door is there. And then the big long arms, their link isn't peeking out between those large openings.
Cool.
Yeah,
the other angle.
looks like they're using part of that L to position the door on that flat section.
So in amongst all that, it allows the arm to go up underneath the door without pranging, and then finally the door comes slam shut behind the arm.
Yeah, it should pop the door up fairly quickly early in the swing.
So these other angles give us a bit of an idea of where the door sits for launch. I was talking with Lawrence last night a bit about if one of these arms, because it all comes down to pretty well one actuator, yeah, for all this mechanism is operated by one actuator.
Correct.
A question, if one of the arms failed to close, would an engine bell fit through, even if the booster had to move this way, say, if that one didn't close, where the booster could actually move this way just a few feet to clear it and would not prang into it, perhaps. But I mean, that's only speculation.
Yeah, no, it can't fit through there because there's not that. If you think about the engine bells, there's not that far of a distance between the bells, and it's certainly smaller than the distance between the arms. So a bell would definitely hit. Well, you'd if one of the arms fails to retract, you'd end up with two engine bells getting damaged.
Yeah, it'd probably
the
be a
one
big boom.
Yeah, not a good day.
And depending on how strong the bells and the engine itself is, it could actually like rip the engine kind of off the bottom of the booster, which would not be good.
Yeah,
Okay, so scratch that idea.
I mean, they could preload the actuators, or you could actually. I think on the other one, Ryan, they were using counterweights on part of the linkage.
Yeah, the upper linkage had the counterweight on it to kind of basically what they would do is this is maybe speculation a little bit, but once the booster is sitting on the arms, it's kind of holding those in tension. So you could technically turn off the hydraulic supply. You could basically open the valves and the arms would stay out. But if you when you have those counterweights kind of on the mid pivot point of the upper linkage, when the booster starts to lift off, that would kind of pull the arm back a little bit to encourage the motion that you need in order to retract the arm. In one of Zach's episodes, he goes into this in pretty good detail, kind of showing where those counterweights are. But that was kind of the big flaw with the first launch mount design, is that if those mid pivot points aren't kind of situated, encouraged to fold back properly, then you could actually kind of bind and end up with that arm wanting to rotate the opposite direction, which would be really bad because that would actually keep the arm, fully out. So with this design, there actually is no upper linkage that needs to close properly. There really shouldn't be anything binding in here. It's just that one piston per arm that's inside the actual launch mount just kind of pulls down on that upper part of the arm, which would encourage it to just retract back. So pretty much the only thing that can kind of go wrong as far as like the main mechanics is concerned is if for some reason you don't have hydraulic pressure in one of the pistons, which seems pretty unlikely considering how simple the hydraulics are. I would imagine there's at least a manifold connecting a bunch of these, together at the same time. So if one of them fails, it seems more likely that a lot of them would not follow suit, just with the way that the hydraulics and how simple they are.
Yeah, because I think when they're rolling it out, they only have one supply and one collection for the hydraulics for the main arms.
It should be pretty fail-safe. Everything from the mechanical standpoint on this launch mount is it's a lot more simple. There's less failure points. Honestly, the most complicated part of this launch mount is the actual door that closes on top, and all of that should be done through mechanical linkages. So basically, getting that geometry right is pretty difficult, at least for kind of an outside perspective, trying to reverse engineer it. But that's kind of where most of the complexity is really at.
Yeah, agreed. That's well, like considering how big and solid and strong all this is, it's almost quite what do you call it? Sort of small. All these sort of linkages up here, but it doesn't really have to do much. It's only to close the door. Yeah, I think that was the biggest, and they're still trying to get a 3D image to get that linkage system worked out. But now that we're seeing the linkages like this, we're getting a much better idea how it actually works. So that's a big thing on the launch mount this week, is they're getting all those doors ready to be put in place. See, even to have all this finished by January, I think even this launch mount would have been struggling to be finished by January and even perhaps February still. It still seems it's like 90% of the bulk work gets done really quickly, all the big stuff, and then all the little fiddling off stuff is actually where sort of 90% of the actual work and time is in finishing up all the fiddly stuff, all the fitting up and the plumbing and the electrical work and these sort of linkage stuff, all these sort of extra bits on top. So, and it seems to be taking a bit longer than I actually judged. I would have thought they were finished all this by now easily, but they're still getting there.
The actual door installation, now that the linkages are all in place, should go fairly quickly.
Yeah, I'll add to that as well that it's pretty obvious from looking at photos, over the past couple of months as they've worked on this stuff, even the arms when they showed up, that there were still some design portions that may not have been fully fleshed out when, this hardware was showing up. It seems pretty evident that at least the door design was not done, or at least fully completed when the arms initially showed up. So there's some of these modifications that needed to be done in situ as they finalize the design. So some of the complications with the doors that we've kind of seen as they've lifted them in and out and whatnot are probably related to some of that being done kind of in situ versus manufactured that way from the beginning.
Yeah,
Agreed.
one of the upper links, that Boomerang one, some of them were peppered full of holes, which seemed to look like they had a lot of adjustments, and then the later ones are just have the two main pivot holes in them.
That's a good explanation, Ryan. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, sort of, and like to continue with that, things like these additions to the chopsticks and so sort of little bits and pieces like that all over the place. So getting on to the chopsticks, we're talking about these plates. Is there one down here? These extra bump stops here that they've got here, and the way they put these extra bits of tube up here. We had quite a lengthy discussion about it yesterday on Show and Tell, which was awesome. And sort of leading speculation is, and I think BJ's along this line, I really agree with him, that they'll be fixed in here and they're not designed to be landed on because the landing rail probably won't be extended, but the actual, just the pads here, give the ship somewhere to just so the ship doesn't get caught on this end here. So it sort of gives them a bit of leeway if they're like we saw the booster landing exactly on a point on landing, so it's not a problem with being able to land right there, but the ship may still be like in transit, like a little bit getting onto that point, and maybe the ship, if the arms close, it may make contact with the ship here first before it slides all the way over to here. So maybe it's just giving them a little bit of safety in here.
Well, unlike the booster, the ship with the flaps has to almost come in at an angle instead of drop down. If that makes any sense.
Well, they have less time. If you think about it, because the aft flaps, even when they're folded, they still stick out by some amount. So, and it seems like with stuff that we've seen that they will fold the flaps, the aft flaps will be folded in when they go to catch the ship, but they can't start closing the arms around the ship, or at least get within that region where the flaps will be. Until after it has kind of passed or descended below that portion of the arms. So they have technically less time to kind of get closed around the ship than they do the booster, if you kind of factor in the same descent speed sort of thing. So and also if you go back and you look at the previous booster catch attempts, you'll notice that the booster, it comes in at an angle and it translates between the arms, and the arms have already basically closed against the vehicle, and the bouncing has stopped, and then the booster kind of just zeroes out its pitch, so it's basically vertical and kind of sets down at the exact same time. But what that means is that with the longer arms, they were kind of able to come in almost like a quarter or halfway, and then set down, and the end of the arm was already contacting, or the end of the bumper was already contacting the side of the booster. In this case, because the arms are half the length, They have to kind of come in at a similar pitch. It's going to be a little different with this pad catching because of the orientation, but for the most part, the booster will have to come in kind of at an angle, but it can only come back so far at an angle because otherwise the bottom of the booster gets too close to the tower and the arms and whatnot. So they will have to kind of start closing the arms, and the booster will have to kind of land on the end of the arm, kind of the quarter of the end. So that means there's a lot more possibility for the booster to end up kind of where the cursor is there, with the arms kind of closing. So the landing rail will be up, of course, because they want to cushion the booster or the ship whenever they come in. But yeah, this other bumper will kind of be mounted statically, and I think I can even see maybe where the paint is ground off on the end of the arm there, where the actual brackets will be welded to the pipe there. But that'll basically be static right there, and that'll keep basically a constant offset between the arm and the vehicle as it kind of slides in between the arms. It'll also, prevent the end of that arm, contacting the booster or ship and kind of, ripping it apart, because that would not be very kind to the side of the ship, especially if it hits where that telescoping pusher is at.
Down here, yeah.
And if you look on the ground of the pieces, you can see the curve where it would match up where they ground what Ryan just pointed out. Yeah,
Yep, so the tube would go right in there. And this is the right offset for the landing rail. It's built into that kind of that X-shaped bracing, but that's kind of where the thickness of the landing rail. So the ends of the bumper will be kind of static. They'll be flush with the bumpers on the actual landing rails.
Up in here, yeah, at rest, yeah, it'll be a smooth transition from the static pads into the dynamic ones.
And technically the landing rail moves a little bit on a radius because of how it's moved up and down. So technically it won't always be flush, but it's close enough.
It'll probably flush in its up position, won't it? Because once it'll be, the booster or ship will be on the rail when it lowers, so it should be past all this point by the time the rails start lowering, I'd imagine.
Yeah, the resting position and the extended position should be roughly the same in terms of, offset, but it's kind of that midpoint as it's coming down that would actually cause the landing rail to be a little bit closer, I guess, pushed out, so that there would be a little bit of offset, but it shouldn't matter at that point.
Okay, sticks, launch mount. Down here, they've opened this back up again, and I can see a vertical here. I think I saw in the chats this is actually, they're welding on this throughout the night, and there may even be already a vertical plate in there for one of these doors here to go in this end here. There's still the 4 doors down here for somewhere else. So plus an added 2 doors over here. So I'm pretty sure that's what's going in there on both sides. Sort of imagine not that all the way along. Looks like they've taken out or whatever. There was a embed across there. Looks like they may have removed it or at least covered it over. Drainage work. Sorry.
That embed that was there was deeper. It wasn't right at the flush with the entry.
I was back in here somewhere, was it?
Yeah.
Okay.
There's a plate there. I believe it was an actual embed.
Oh, just a plate. Yeah, okay, yeah. And this triangle, that one perhaps is a triangle that was welded in there. On this side at least. There's a drainage system going in here, some drainage pipes and a trench dug that seem to line up with that pipe, whether it's some kind of water exit or what have you, but that's getting installed through there.
Yeah, I think Zach brought up a very good point last night. It'll probably turn and head for the retention pond.
So the Pyrex systems inside there would create water on the ground. I guess it's probably maybe one exit point for it. And yeah, to be contained in here because that wouldn't be clean enough water to be dropped over the edge. It's a weird place to drop it over the edge anyway, so yeah, it's more than likely going to turn and end up being in here.
Depending on what level of testing and they discharge, because they do have a license to discharge on part of this edge. But I don't know what their actual testing regime is they need to do before.
Okay, over this side of the tower, we can see the new 3-port vent.
The Trident.
A Trident, yeah. Kind of looks like cameras in some of the photos, but then there's this massive pipe heading out to it. So anyways, it's some kind of vent. So there's that other vent on the chopsticks. I mean, on the... sorry, Alex.
There's the 2 vents on the arms. No, NSF has some ground photos. And yeah, the ends of the Trident vent definitely look like most of their camera, very similar to camera housings that they use, but they're definitely outflows.
This way we get a really good shot of all the swivels that are hooked up for the main cryo lines, and looks like some electrical has been hooked in, and even down in here looks like they may have started working on high pressure stuff as well. So it's all looking nice, nice and tidy. So this is actually hooked right back into that where we saw earlier, isn't it?
Yeah, the main propellant lines are mostly plumbed in.
Isn't there a third one in the middle here somewhere? That one, isn't it?
Yeah. That's the methane liquid vapor. Oh, sorry. Computer must be acting up.
Oh, thanks, chat. Chat, we're telling you. Okay, so that's pretty well the tower. Down here, these things were added over the last few weeks. I'm not sure exactly which flyover they appeared, but they seem to have appeared. I didn't actually notice them. People like BJ in the show and tell, well, BJ in particular is amazing at finding little details that change, and Alex as well. Alex gets on the photos after show and tell and goes over them in fine tooth comb as well, which is awesome to have in the community.
Yeah, those steel plates were moving around. I think they were in like 4 different places in subsequent flyovers, and I kept tracking them, and all of a sudden they disappeared. And it wasn't until just a couple days ago that I finally saw photos like, oh, that's where they went.
The scaffolding on the end of the arm.
Yeah.
And the tower, so they'll open the arm to lift up the little extension. The crane's in the right spot. They'll open the arm up and put the extension on out here somewhere in midair, I would imagine.
Yeah, definitely. I thought they were going to reach up and over from the other side, but with the position that they've got the crane set up and everything underneath it, it definitely looks like they're going to do it from around the backside.
Yeah, I agree. I would expect to see the crane set up over here and reach this way, but yeah, it looks like they're coming around this side for whatever reason.
It's one of the least impressive gravel pads I've made for the crane, too.
Yeah, I guess the extensions, it's probably because the load probably was low enough they didn't need to also put cribbing over the top of the road base this time.
They've only done a pile for each track this time, not a whole pad.
Better hope their measurements are right.
Yeah.
This wall over here, they've done a lot of foundation work ready for the rest of the wall to be put up. Including, you can see in here, there's where the drainage is going to come out for that drainage system through there into
Maybe,
the
just
wetlands.
maybe, we get the gateway to Mars back along that wall for a second time.
One launch.
For a week.
For a week. Absolutely. Some Movac trucks in this area. I mean, Movac containers, I mean. So there's for a good chance they're cleaning this pit out and maybe even cleaning out the whole trench. Zach was speaking, was funny in show and tell. He was speaking how skanky that'd be down underneath there by now, especially down that pit with all the algae and what have you over the last year or so.
How to get Legionnaire's disease in one simple step.
Ugh. I can almost smell it from here. I'm not sure we showed in the last flyover images, but the new ASU control bunker sitting here next to Hopper. I kind of think it's going to sit. I can't sit in shot. I'll get to that in the middle in a minute. Let's go here. Where is it? Good shot of that. This one should show it. Yeah, something BJ picked up with these little strips. They're adding to the end of the commodities trench, so they're effectively sealing the ceiling of the trench, sealing the covers. Not noticed that myself. Oh, look, they're all the way through. Actually, they've come all the way through. All the way through. Okay.
Yeah, it looks like they stopped short of that expansion joint there, somewhere underneath the bigger water tanks. But I would imagine since we see it between the water tank, between the two banks, that they'll continue all the way through there.
That's funny. I just saw as they put all those bollards in front of that crazy fill manifold there.
Yeah.
They're very small.
Yeah, that
for
is
this one.
it's kind of weird, that manifold. So I was talking about manifolds before at Sanchez that have been moved here to the launch site, and here they are sitting here, as well as some heaps of other. What were you saying, Alex? I forgot what you were saying this could be for.
Yeah, it's for the more than for the isolation purging.
Oh yeah. So they may not quite have finished over here. You're saying that's right, on this side here there should be more manifolds over this side.
And if they're finally going to get around to replacing how they're all hanging out on the upper right. Yeah, cleaning up all that.
This whole area is a little bit sort of messy, temporary vibes going on. This whole little area here especially.
Most definitely.
Can we actually see the pump going down the trench? No.
I'm not sure if it's temporary or not, though, because there's no concrete on it yet.
Yeah, the good old concrete indicator trick. Okay, so that area, yeah, it's pretty well covered.
Still love how they have the basket at the bottom of the trench.
Yeah. I know an easy way to get rid of that. Put a booster up there and turn it on. Okay, the pump farm here. Of course, the big news for the pump farm is, yay, finally, we have ourselves the last methane pump. So even things like lighting on this new system is like more advanced and more professional.
They may have
speaking of
cameras on each pump to check for leaks, and so you'd want to have like lighting or predictable lighting in every spot to maybe check it with a camera so you don't have like shadows.
Absolutely, yep. I saw a little YouTube documentary about a flammable fluids storage facility, and they had a pump fail on a shaft, and it eventually the vibration loosened the seal between the liquid and the drive shaft, and created a massive flood. And because there was no vibration test or no camera or anything or no isolation valves, the leak continued, and instead of just a little bit of liquid coming out, lots and lots of liquid came out, and all the tanks caught on fire. So yeah, sort of having cameras there is a good way to sort of manage issues like that. And then even they'd just be able to isolate a whole pump, I would imagine, that's faulty, and continue with loading of propellants.
Yeah, and your drive current draws and everything else would start showing a
Yes.
lot of those anomalies.
Yeah, so this entrance is open again. Still a little bit of concreting to be finished in this whole building. Just that little tiny bit left down here, and that's completely enclosed in concrete all the way around it. What are they? Just more decking, I guess, is it? That doesn't matter. Cybertruck.
Where?
Okie dokie. Oh, sorry, Alex.
You said Cybertrucks. I'm like, where?
They're everywhere. They're everywhere. 2 vaporizers have been put in here on the methane side. A little bit further over, there it appears that BJ did a really nice Photoshop. I haven't got that image with me of these. I can't see them. Of the larger tanks, the 3 tanks at the Port Connector Road. Actually, about it. These tanks fit just nicely in here. If that's one of the pedestals, and the other pedestals down about this, down in this area here. So we may see the 3 hot dog tanks put in this area soon. Oh, it's for something completely different, just to mess us up, just to mess with us. But I think that's pretty all what's going on. And I guess more methane storage, I imagine. Maybe then I can actually get rid of these tanks. Maybe. Saw a lot of venting over the break between the pump farm over here and a little bit of venting over here, which we're calling this the new Pope stack, Alex.
Essentially, yeah. But yeah, that vent is gonna. That's where most of the methane vent's gonna be coming from in the future.
So this vent will be obsolete, and probably this whole tank here. Okay, let's go to pad 1, pad scrap, however you want to say it. Oh boy, they're really going to town on this area. So it appears most, if not all, of the large pile cap has been removed. I just thought maybe there's still a bit of it under here, but maybe not.
It looks like they compacted.
Yeah, I think that particular area was I think what we saw excavated for the most part, the previous flyover, and I think it was that area that's kind of not compacted was the second, was where they continued after between the flyovers.
Gotcha. Yep, that makes sense. So exposing some of the sheet piles they put in when they did the revamp after Flight 1, and they've got a machine here to vibrate them out. So they're going to vibrate all these sheet. I was going to say that no, they're still there. They'll vibrate all these sheet piles out. And it looks like they're already getting groundwater, so they'll sooner or later have to put in another, like they did at pad 2, put in another sheet pile. Basically a Copa dam, is it?
Yeah. Or they'll just put their dewatering wells in. But I'd be really surprised if they just don't backfill that and continue with the rest of the demo in the area.
For now, yeah, and later on do this whole, like the ground, almost looks like the groundwork here is almost ready to start the new flame trench. But you were saying there's still some paperwork, but dang paperwork.
Yeah, unless they get some special treatment, they're easily a year away from if they go through the normal environmental reviews.
So maybe I think Isaacman was sort of hinting towards that the current administration are pretty keen to get some of this rocketry underway, so they may find a way to get through that a little quicker, perhaps.
Short of
down here,
making it a federal base, and even still, 637 had to go through the full environmental review process.
interestingly, down here there's a. Can we see? Yeah, there's a magnet. So there's some attachments for the excavators. There's also a magnet here. So they've been. How was it photo again? So they've been picking up this in here. They've been sorting steel and rock. And he's got a what do you call it? A grate on this bucket so it can shake all the rocks out. And also they're getting rid of steel. There's a massive big pile of steel. Look all the way along here. There's a better shot of that. This shot here. There's all that rebar, old rebar down here. Remember that when they did the work after after launch one, flight one, they put in a stack of new rebar. So here it all is coming back out again. See, they've dug into that bolt through here. Looks like that other bolt's been completely removed now. So this bolt's been removed back to here. Although you can see some of the plumbing down in here had been removed. There's those wire cages they brought in, the rebar cages. Over here, looks like they're still pulling stuff out of the tower. All this stuff will go. I think the propellants are going to come from the other direction when they get this whole pad one going again. I'm still not sure if they're going to have out here ready in a new pump farm out here, whether they're just going to tap into the current pump farm. Not sure about that whole process yet. So either way, I think we're going to be in for a bit of a long haul before this pad's ready. I think there's a ton of paperwork to get through, plus a ton of actual construction, or deconstruction first, then construction.
It's certainly going to be a little bit more complicated with this pad if they're going to try and construct while still getting permission to use certain land and whatnot. So they may pivot and finish up more on the tower first, and then maybe lay out some of the piles for the trench, and then go back in and add some more in later. So they can probably flex it either way. There's still a certain duration of work that needs to be done. It's just about segmenting and positioning that, scheduling it so that it can be done, accounting for all the constraints. So it'll be interesting to see, I guess, what order they choose to do things in for this remodel.
Absolutely. That's what we found, the linkage. We did find the linkage on this that second little bit of linkage in there, but I won't do that again today. That seems as though we had that amazing drawing there by Ryan Hansen Space, which is awesome. Okay, we'll go to the ASU unit. The ASU site. It's like saying ATM machine. Excuse me.
You need
So they
dedupe.
poured this. Sorry?
You need dedupe.
Yeah. Oh, there's a bit here they left out, a little notch. So the embeds for the vertical cylinders. This whole slab's been laid. Have we got drive shafts here? I'm not sure. That's probably not the best one to look at it. Let's try this image. No, that one won't work either. Maybe we can see behind there.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure from the ground images they haven't been installed, but I didn't actually spend too much time digging to see if they were in the pile. I mean, I think they've even actually removed some of the heat exchangers and put them off to the side to give them more working space around the ones that they've been starting to put the connectors between.
So that one was put in since last flyover. Maybe there's one here. Another one hasn't been put in. The drive shaft's there, isn't it? It goes
Yeah,
to
the drive
there.
Yeah, the intercoolers are one of them. The first stage has been plumbed on one and not the other.
Do you mean this piece here?
Yeah. Yeah, because that's the inlet of the second stage being fed from the outlet of the first stage.
Okay, so it goes from big to small going into the second stage.
Yeah, it comes out of the one close that we can't see down into that intercooler, and then pops up into the inlet of that one.
All about compressing, cooling, compressing, cooling, compressing, cooling until they get into liquid, yeah?
Well, no, they're nowhere near liquid at this point.
Cool. But removing heat energy nonetheless, compressing it and getting rid of heat energy.
Yeah, they're just removing the energy from heating. And then once they're in the high pressure side's a cold box things. That's where most of the cooling is done.
Cool. Cooling. So there's some. So I think there's a good shot at the port. Let's just bring that up actually. Just give me 1 second. Where's that photo? One sec. There it is. So that cooling box over the back there is what you're talking about, wasn't it, Alex?
That's there should be twice as many, at least twice as many as those. That's for cooling the water loops for the front end compression stage.
Yeah, and at the port connector road, we can see sort of this sort of assembly still already there. We haven't seen this one yet, but we can see some of this sort of skids. So much like the launch side and the Neomasys stuff, it's all in modular.
It makes the stuff here look primitive.
Oh, the stuff here, you mean?
The stuff that the ASU is going to have makes this tank farm look primitive. It's the same thing with the LNG plant.
Oh, that's
Just
place
different.
is huge.
Yeah.
All right, so that's the ASU site. So we'll go back to questions.
All right. So first question is from Sebastian asking, will the OLM be painted at some point?
I believe it's already started to have some painting on the other side there. I see that on this side. Yeah, this side's already started to be painted.
It's one of those questions we get basically every week.
Yeah, the deck probably not, but everything else probably.
And then we got another one from Crane Man asking, how do they avoid the booster touching the doors when lowering it into the OLM? So
go ahead, Ryan.
Yeah, if you look at the doors, I don't know if this is not a good angle, but they do extend. I try and find like a 45. Yeah, somewhat that angle, but maybe. This one might be do it. You can see the end of the arm here, especially there on the right side where the doors are, and you can see how the end of the arm extends out. So the booster will sit on top of the end of the arm, but you can see how the actual door itself is further back to allow room for the bottom of the booster there.
Yeah, it might be close, but it's nice and snug, like we like it. So next one's from...
Ryan,
Go ahead.
And Ryan, like Pad A, they pad one, they bring the clamps are retracted when they put the booster down in here. Then they open the clamps after the bells have gone through. Yeah.
Yeah, they'll have a similar flow as with pad 1, yeah.
Thank you, Matt.
All right, and the next one's from Kai Nessel. Why are there 3 vents at SQD height instead of just one?
Over here.
I would imagine they're talking about the cladding on the OLM itself on the outside. There's like some vents across the top. That's my guess anyway. I'm not 100% sure.
Or is it the new ones they just installed?
Mention of the SQD height leads me to assume it's the vent on the tower.
Yeah, the Trident vent. I'd imagine it's just a dispersion thing. I mean, they all seem to be connected to the same pipe, so it's not like it's 3 independent vents. It's just one vent with 3 outputs.
Usually they do 2. That horseshoe they like do 2. But this one happens to be 3. I don't know. This photo. That Trident, yeah. Like we're seeing with the 2 all over the place, where they sort of point towards each other. This one just has 3. Thank you, Matt.
Yeah, and the next one is from Damn to Mars. Will it be possible with a full stack to walk all the way up to the wall that faces Starbase, or will the security perimeter be moved further back? Are there any indications of this?
I guess it's what? Hang on. I guess it's much like. Sorry, go ahead.
Unless it gets closed by fish and wildlife, you'll still be able to walk around like you have done previously.
Oh, around. You mean walking out here?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, and that's not even federal. Those properties right along the wall there are actually Texas Park, not federal fish and wildlife either.
I would assume.
Sorry.
I would assume at some point that they will kind of move a little bit of a setback, put the stakes or something to keep people from going right up against that concrete wall. Because we had basically the same thing happen with Pad 1 when it was under construction, where you could literally walk right up to the construction fence that was right on the edge of the concrete, at that point in time. And I would imagine that they didn't really like people getting up that close, so they did move it back to you can see the line there. I would imagine they will probably do something like that at some point, especially as people push the boundaries a little bit. So I guess I would expect that to happen at some point.
Yeah, absolutely. Gene Mintz with the next one. Will any restaurants be available to public visitors?
Doubtful.
Maybe at Rio West.
Yeah, even there, I think a lot of the rumors I've kind of heard suggest that it's all private.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Chompy's is going to be private. All right, the next one's from Fly Jake. When will they bring in the piles to make the walls of the trench? And that would be for Pad A. And I think, just like Alex was saying, we're kind of waiting on paperwork, so we're just not really sure on that one.
They could, in theory, start on parts of it, doing a lot of the piles, do some of the sheet piling. But yeah, it depends if they want to get, halfway and kind of have to stop.
Construction scheduling is not conducive to stopping and starting like that either.
No.
Next one
But
from... Go ahead.
Go on. I was going to say it'll either go very quickly or it'll be a long slog.
All right, from Nicholas Dornan, could it be possible that SpaceX reworks the QD extension arm like this one for Tower 2?
Wouldn't surprise me if the whole arm comes down and gets the whole new arm maybe positioned somewhere. I think, Ryan, you talk about the height and all that. I think you've talked a couple of times now in my streams about the height And yeah, this whole thing could even come off. The whole arm could come up and get redone.
Yeah, I haven't, I guess, fully ran the numbers to see what makes the most sense, but you could technically, use the same arm and extension that they have on Tower 2 on the remodeled Tower 1. But if you do that, you kind of have to change the height of where the stack is. So the launch mount height would have to either be adjusted up or down, which in turn also affects, I guess, the depth of the trench. So um, not quite sure, I guess, what they're gonna do with that. It would, I don't know. It's really hit or miss depending on, something has to give, I guess.
Because
Because you worked out it's probably going to be an in-between height, isn't it? It's not a full section change. You sort of, some of the numbers you were crunching sort of put you sort of somewhere in between, halfway, doesn't it?
Yeah, you're in between the truss on the tower, technically speaking, from like whatever grade level is, but grade level can be adjusted. So it might make sense to them to actually lower the trench a little bit, then move it up, but we'll have to see.
Thanks.
And the last one is from Drew Nar. They are kind of wondering, how does the ASU work? How do they separate the air? Do they compress and cool it until different elements liquefy?
you compress it and expand it, and it's an adiabatic process. And most of these are behaving more or less ideally. So they're below the Joule-Thomson transition point. So if it was hydrogen, it wouldn't be. Hydrogen, you have to cool, in helium, you have to cool down to like minus, like around 140 Kelvin before it'll cool down from expansion.
And then the towers, it's basically like the tower then, it's basically like a fraction still, sort of to overly simplified, isn't it?
The primarily cooling is done by adiabatic expansion.
But then to separate the oxygen and nitrogen, isn't it sort of like basically like a fraction still?
It is, but you have to cool it down. You have to liquefy it before you can start boiling it to run it through the still. That's where the excess and why the liquid nitrogen is considered free, because you're essentially using that for liquefying the oxygen, and then you use the liquid oxygen for cleaning up the argon. But the Tuesday show would probably be a better for more in-depth explanation if people are interested.
There's plenty of good docos like on YouTube too to go. Which I've got to study myself a little bit as far as for that process too. Thank you, Matt.
Absolutely, and that's everything.
There was one last question about, is there going to be a new entrance off the roundabout? Is it going to come through here, or is it here? There was that mud map they made up. I can't remember the final entrance was here, going to this area, or whether it was from right over here.
It's from there.
It's from the roundabout.
Yeah, cool.
Which also, they have to get their variances, because then you're within 1,000 feet of mean high tide level.
I'm going to quickly jump over here and grab a quick little look at Rio West. I can just see this building's continuing to be stood up. That's about all the news for Rio West. Okay, well, there's no more questions. We've covered all the areas. We've covered the Astro Awards, so we might wrap up the stream, guys. We've gone 2.5 hours. That's awesome. Thank you very much. So I thank Ryan Hansen very much for your expertise. I always enjoy having you on the show. You add a certain level of expertise to the stream, so I really appreciate your info and your time today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I know there's always cool stuff happening, and I think here in 2026 we're gonna see a lot of action at Starbase. So it'll be really cool to see how some of these projects finish up, and we get back to some launches.
Absolutely. And BJ, again, Raider as well, thank you very much for your keen eye and observation and your input. I really appreciate it as well. Thank you.
Thanks. Glad to be here. Good to always take part, and thank everyone for joining us this week again. And look forward to getting everybody back again for the next set of images when the next flyover happens.
Absolutely, and thanks, Alex, especially for your patience in explaining some of the physics and Starbase in general. So thank you very much, Alex.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me. And I also love when BJ and Ryan are on because I can just sit back and enjoy.
And so, thank you to RGV Aero Photography. Thank you, Matt, in the background there for pushing the buttons and turning the knobs and doing the questions for us.
It is my pleasure. And just again, want to remind everybody that in 2 weeks' time, the Astro Awards will be going on. It is a 2-day event, so you can meet all the greats, from the space community that we know and love. Tim Dodd, Scott Manley, couple of astronauts, just a bunch of people. So get your tickets; they're selling quick. So with that, thank you everybody. We really appreciate your time and effort and coming and joining us for another great year with RGV. So with that, most engines cut off, hot staging confirmed. Love you, bye.